You said something a minute ago where you were saying you had to make a switch from thinking about fixing the person to focusing on fixing the situation that they're in.
Mhm.
How did you all make that switch? It's hard to change the ethos
It,
of an organization.
it,
How,
you know what? It was very difficult. Great question, Rachel. It started with our board. I met with our board and I told them some of my thoughts. I said, y'all, we're putting people out. We're breathalyzing and drug testing people before they come in. I said, we're trying to make people be perfect and nobody's perfect. We're not perfect. I said, so why are we making somebody going through, no, this is tough love and they got to get clean and that's the way. So then I realized, okay, wrong move. I can't get the group as a whole. So then our best move I made, I called the board chair. I said, I wanted to sit down with him. He was scared. I said, I'm not leaving. He thought I was scared to leave. I said, no, I'm not leaving. I want to have a conversation with you because I don't really know them. I'm coming in new and I'm trying to make all these changes. I said, but I see the way the wind is blowing. And if we don't kind of make that shift to housing first, we're going to be left in the dust. I said, so I want to explain it to you. And he understood it. And then from him, he was on board. He said, Todd, I trust you. And then we went to the executive committee. And the way I explained it to them, Rachel, was I said, think of it this way. If you had a mutual fund and you put $100 in that mutual fund, your expectation is that you're going to gain more interest on that $100. I said, but what if you lose money? What if it's 2008, market crashes, you lose money? Then what? I said, or that 100 drops to 50, or COVID, when we all lost a ton of money if you had anything in an IRA or any investment account. I said, what happened? I said, are we going to pull the money out? Then you're going to get taxed more because you're pulling the money out before it's ready. Or do you leave it in there and try to get back the money you lost and then some? I said, but that's money. We're talking about a person. So we invest in a person and I help him get his birth certificate, social security card, and identification. And then he gets a job. And he's working on that job for 1 month, 2 months. And he has a bad day. And he's still struggling on how to deal with his depression or his anger or his challenge. And he goes out and drinks. And then he comes back to the shelter, and because he's drunk, I put him out. I've thrown that whole investment away. Now, 6 months later, he comes back. He's lost the birth certificate we had to mail off to Maine to get. He lost the social security card and he don't have his ID anymore. Now we got to start all over again and do work we've already done. I said, it doesn't make sense. So I said, but what if he comes in, we said, sleep it off. You wake up the next morning, we have a conversation with you about, hey, these are some better ways to kind of cope or deal with the stressors that you're dealing with in life, because we all go through them. Here's a better way to deal with that versus spending your money on drinking, and then use that as a teaching lesson. And then he keeps his job. He still has a place to be. And then we can still move forward on the work we're doing to get him out of shelter into housing. And they understood it better that way versus me just coming in and talking to the whole group. So then by the time we took it back to the group, I had 6 or 7 advocates that the rest of the group respected. They were still getting to know me at that time, but they had respect for these guys because they had and females because they had already had relationships with them. And so that's kind of how I worked it. And then I said, listen, just give it time and let's see. I said, because right now, doing it the way we're doing it now, we're at access to permanent housing from shelter, we're at about 24%. That's not going to get it done. Shelter on the national level averages about 30, high 30s, low 40s. But today we're at like 52%. But I think, yeah, which is amazing for the people that we're serving. We're dealing with the most vulnerable. And so it works. It was tough early on because you got a new guy coming in. Like, we've been doing it this way for years and we've been all right. And I'm like, all right is all right, because at the end of the day, I'm looking at our mission statement and I'm wondering, part of our mission statement is to help people empower them to overcome crisis situations and return to being self-sufficient, independent, productive members of the community. How are we doing that when we're asking them to come in perfect from the beginning? I said, all this money I'm spending on drug tests and breathalyzers can be going on programming and on empowering them. I'd rather spend that money on helping them get into housing versus me testing them to come in. I mean, we saved a lot of money just eliminating all that stuff. So they just had to understand that once they started to see the success and see other opportunities come about and grants and being able to enhance the programming, then they just sat back and said, you know what? Our job is not to tell Todd how to do his job. Our job is to be visionaries and help him grow this organization versus getting into the weeds of it